All right, let's talk about something we all know a little too well, procrastination. In this explainer, we're going to get into why it happens and, more importantly, what the science actually says we can do about it.
You know this scene, right? You've got that task you need to do. Maybe it's a big project, a report, or just that one thing you've been avoiding. You open your laptop, you're ready to go, and then it starts. This weird invisible wall goes up. It's like this little hum of resistance inside you. It's not loud, but man, you can feel it.
And almost instantly, your brain starts scanning for the nearest exit. It's like, hey, shouldn't you check your email? Or, you know what? A cup of tea sounds like a fantastic idea right now. Next thing you know, an hour has gone by, and you've done everything but the thing you were supposed to do.
Sound familiar? Yeah, this cycle is so incredibly common, but the really damaging part is what happens next, where our brain immediately goes. We start blaming ourselves.
We start telling ourselves these stories. I'm just lazy. I have zero discipline. I just don't have the willpower. We turn it into this deep, personal character flaw. But what if that whole idea is just completely wrong?
See, our usual solution is to just try and brute force it, right? To just summon more willpower out of thin air. But it turns out, that's like trying to fix a leaky pipe by shouting at it. It's a total misunderstanding of how our brains are wired.
And this is the key. You have to understand this. Willpower is not some infinite magic power you can tap into whenever you want. It's a finite, limited resource.
This slide just nails it. We're often told willpower is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. But the reality? It's much more like a battery. You wake up with a full charge, and every single decision you make, every temptation you resist, every bit of focus you exert, it drains that battery bit by bit.
You know, there's even a scientific name for this. It's called ego depletion, and it explains so much. It's why it's usually way easier to get work done in the morning. By the end of the day, after making hundreds of choices, your battery is just low, and suddenly scrolling on your phone feels a whole lot easier than writing that report.
And when you ignore this and just try to push through, you get this compressed spring effect. It's a perfect analogy. You might be able to force it for a few days, right? You get super productive, but you're pushing that spring down tighter and tighter, and eventually it's going to spring back hard, and that usually leads to a huge crash and even worse procrastination.
So this brings us to the big aha moment of this whole thing. We have to completely change how we think about procrastination. It isn't a flaw. It's actually a defense mechanism.
Okay, so if it's not me being lazy, if it's not a lack of discipline, then what on earth is actually happening here?
And here's the reveal. Procrastination is your brain trying to protect you. That's it. It's trying to help you avoid negative feelings, like the fear of failure, or worrying about what other people will think, or even just plain old boredom. It wants to steer you towards something easy that feels good right now.
You gotta remember, our brains are basically running on ancient survival software. For our ancestors, saving energy was literally a matter of life and death. So our brains are hardwired to find the path of least resistance. That programming was great for surviving in the wild, but it's not so great for a world filled with deadlines and spreadsheets. So once you really get that, the whole game changes. It's not about you versus you anymore. It's not a struggle. It's about designing a smarter system. Look at the difference on this slide. The old way is this exhausting, endless battle of trying to become some superhuman with infinite willpower. The new way is so much smarter. It's about accepting how your brain works and just making the task less scary, less big, and easier to start. I absolutely love this analogy. Think about it. When it's freezing outside, you don't just stand there and say, I'm gonna try harder to be warm. No, of course not. You put on a jacket, you change your system. We have to learn to put a jacket on our work. So how do we actually do that? How do we build that jacket?
Well, it really boils down to 5 simple, practical principles you can use for pretty much any task you're putting off.
Here they are. These are the 5 core pieces of our procrastination fighting jacket. We're gonna simplify the start, limit the time, remove decisions, design our environment, and acknowledge those small wins. Let's quickly break them down.
Okay, number 1 is arguably the most important. Simplify the start. A huge, vague task like write the presentation is terrifying. Your brain just sees this giant mountain, but a tiny, super specific task like open a document and write a title, that creates almost zero resistance. Getting started is always the hardest part. Once you're moving, you've got momentum.
The other principles make this even easier. Limit the time. Just tell yourself you only have to work for 10 minutes. Anyone can do 10 minutes.
Remove decisions. The night before, decide exactly what that tiny first step will be. Design your environment. Make it easy to do the right thing. Put your phone in another room. And finally, and this is huge, acknowledge the small wins. Every time you check off even the tiniest task, your brain gets a little hit of dopamine, which builds motivation for the next step.
So if you only take one thing away today, please let it be this. Procrastination doesn't mean you're broken or lazy. It's a signal. It's your brain's way of telling you that the task ahead is too big, too vague, or just too scary. It's a signal to change your system, not to beat yourself up.
So stop asking, how can I force myself to do this? And start asking this instead. What is one thing on your to-do list for tomorrow that you can make ridiculously, laughably simple to start? What's one tiny first step that feels almost effortless? Start there.